But first, Iran's president slamming U.S. foreign policy at his UN speech.
To endeavor to universalize American ideals throughout the world have proven to be failures.
Former UN ambassador in 2024 hopeful Nikki Haley reacts to the alarming rhetoric. She's in our studio.
To endeavor to universalize American ideals throughout the world have proven to be failures. The Iranian nation takes pride in having instrumentally unmasked the true nature of the rulers in both the East and West through its Islamic Revolution.
The leader of the world's #1 sponsor of terror, using his time at the UN stage to condemn the United States. And that wasn't all. The Israeli ambassador walked out of the Iranian president's speech and then was detained.
Yeah, we don't know exactly why, but it was weird after he did that. Meanwhile, President Biden also addressing world leaders, highlighting, what else? Climate change.
We also stand ready to work together with China on issues where progress hinges on our common efforts. Nowhere is that more critical than accelerating the climate crisis. These snapshots tell an urgent story of what awaits us if we fail to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and begin to climate-proof the world.
Right. That was his focus. Joining us now, GOP presidential candidate and former UN ambassador. No one has to tell her what that marble, that green marble looks like behind her. She lived it. Ambassador Nikki Haley. Ambassador, the president's remarks heavy on climate change, nothing about Taiwan, and talked about the China not being an enemy. We just want to de-risk, not decouple. Where do you break from the president?
Well, it's embarrassing. I mean, I'm looking at the fact that here you've had a spy balloon go over our country. You've killed thousands of Americans with fentanyl. You steal intellectual property. And you're putting a spy center up in Cuba. And you're going to go say they're a competitor? China sees us as an enemy. They've been preparing for war with us for years. And that's what you're going to do? You're going to talk about climate change and the fact that they're a competitor? The Chinese had to be celebrating. I mean, and they're laughing at us.
They didn't show up.
And the rest of the world doesn't know what's going on with us.
How do you feel about the Iranian president saying that America gets up in front of the UN on our soil here in New York City and says that, accuses America of stoking Russia's war on Ukraine, and then you have Israel's ambassador who is holding up a sign, a picture of that young lady who died in Iran for not wearing the hijab correctly. Murdered, exactly, brutally murdered. And so then he walks outside into the hallway area and is detained.
I mean, Ainsley, it is taking everything I've got not to walk in those doors, because I would be rattling every cage. First of all, you know, he's getting up there slapping Raisi's getting up there slapping America around after he was given $6 billion.
Right.
And it was announced on 9/11, blocks away from where we had thousands of people die. And he's going to go spew that hate. And you're going to go and detain an Israeli ambassador for calling out a truth that Mahsa Amini, a year ago, was murdered just because she didn't wear her headdress properly. It defies logic. What the Israeli ambassador was doing was freedom of speech.
Right.
If you're going to let a murderer get up there and have voice to a microphone, you have every right to have an Israeli ambassador hold up a poster saying, "Do not forget Mahsa
That wasn't
and what you did to
NYPD,
her."
though. Who arrested him?
The UN.
Yeah.
This is why the UN is a farce. You're going to go and protect that thug, and you're going to go and sit there. This is hypocrisy at its best. They've always done this to Israel. The only thing that sickens me more is that the American ambassador wasn't standing there holding a poster right next to him.
Why do you think so many of the world leaders, the big ones, China and Russia, well, we know Putin's got that international arrest warrant out for him, or France, why didn't they show up? Is it because they didn't want to be lectured by Joe Biden about climate proofing the country, the whole world?
They don't respect Biden. You show up when you want to please that president. It's a moment of respect. It's a moment that shows this is an important place and you want to see that. They don't respect Biden. They know that Kamala Harris is nothing to be afraid of. They know that Biden is not with it. And so why would they go and spend time to come here? Because they're not going to get anything from Biden, and they don't want anything from Biden because they don't trust him.
Sure. Ambassador, I don't have to tell you, in the last two major polls, head-to-head with Joe Biden, one you beat him by 6, the other you beat him by 2. Trump as well. And in the last poll that I saw, the Harvard poll, so does Tim Scott. What's going on there? What about your message is resonating more in the general than it is against Donald Trump?
Well, I think, first of all, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. But I think what you're seeing is we have to have someone that can win a general. A primary win doesn't matter if we end up with a President Kamala Harris. That cannot happen. And so the goal is, this is a story about addition. You want more people to join us. It doesn't mean you have to soften on being conservative. It means how you communicate, and instead of pushing people away, you're bringing people in. If we've lost the last 7 out of 8 popular votes for president, that is nothing for Republicans to be proud of. We should want to win the majority of Americans. I'm talking to everyone. We're going out bringing in everyone, whether it's women, whether it's the younger generation, whether it's independents, whether it's conservative Republicans, and we're bringing them together. We're not dividing them anymore, but we're doing it in a way that's going to bring a strong and proud America.
Your abortion answer, I think, I know that there's so many people watching that are pro-life. You're pro-life, but you gave a fabulous answer. Exactly. You gave a great answer, though, that can attract the independents, that can even attract the Democrats. And I had a Democratic mom at our school come up to me and say, she is my candidate now.
Look, I mean, the fellas just don't know how to talk about it. The reality is you have to humanize this situation. Quit demonizing people over it. I'm unapologetically pro-life, but I'm not going to judge someone for being pro-choice any more than I want them to judge me for being pro-life. So let's come together on what we can agree on. I'm waiting for them to ask Joe Biden whether he's for 37, 38, 39 weeks. They asked Kamala and she couldn't answer.
She had no answer.
And that's the thing, is turn the tables on them. But at the end of the day, let's come together on what we can agree on.
What is your week?
What I will tell you is it takes 60 Senate votes in the majority of the House. Where does that come together? Let's ban late-term abortions. Let's encourage adoptions. Let's not make doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion have to perform them. Let's make contraception accessible. And don't let a state law put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty for getting an abortion. Wherever those 60 Senate votes come together, the goal is how do we save as many babies as possible and support as many moms as possible.
Governor, what are you doing for the next 10 minutes? That went so well. Lawrence Jones, who's outside with a millennial panel, would like to have you go outside and talk to the kids about what they think.
Let's do it.
All right, let's go ahead. She's going to join Lawrence outside and take some questions from our millennial and Gen Z voters. Coming up next, as they wave live from Fox.
So the first 2024 primary contest is just months away, and presidential contender Nikki Haley is back to answer some questions from our Gen Z and millennial voter panel. Ambassador, thanks so much for joining me.
Of course.
I got some questions of my own before we give it over to the panel. We've seen our southern border, I'm a Texan, be overrun. It looks like it's a full-blown invasion. What do you do on day one to secure the border?
I think, first of all, let's give credit to Greg Abbott for going and showing these liberal cities what it feels like to be in Texas. But the first thing we do is we do a national E-Verify program so that we can make sure that we know exactly which companies are hiring people. We go back to the Remain in Mexico policy. We put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. And instead of catch and release, we go to catch and deport. We have to stop this. America is a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything our country was founded on.
Let's get to our first question. We're going to go to Lizzie. What do you have for the ambassador?
Hi, Ambassador Haley. It's amazing to meet you. I am a proud Jewish mom, and I am living in a lot of fear for the future of my children as anti-Semitism is reaching record heights. The Squad, AOC, Rashida Tlaib continuously demonize Israel along with other notable celebrities. And I know that this rhetoric is contributing to the anti-Semitism we're seeing. I'm particularly concerned about what's happening on college campuses with anti-Zionism. I would love to know how you would fight anti-Semitism on college campuses, and also why the relationship between the U.S. and Israel is so important.
Well, and that's a great question. And listen, I lived it at the UN. It was the most hypocritical place. And, we were just talking about the fact that they detained the Israeli ambassador for reminding everybody about Mahsa Amini, and the fact that she died a year ago at Iranian hands is hypocritical and disgusting. But Israel is a great partner to us. It's a bright spot in a tough neighborhood. And too many people think that Israel needs America. That's not the case. America needs Israel. They are the front lines of defense for Iran. What we need to do is remind everybody hate is hate. Whether it's racism, whether it's anti-Semitism, there is no place for it, and it needs to be dealt with that way. And so on college campuses, if they don't have programs designed to combat hate, and that includes anti-Semitism, their funding should be pulled. That's simple. We can't have people on the streets sitting there worried. And as a mom, I have a mom heart, worried about your child on a college campus because someone's going to hate them. But when you have this rhetoric, when you allow an Iranian and, the president to go and spew hate from the UN world stage after we gave $6 billion to them, that's what you get. You'll have a president who remembers Israel and the U.S. are best friends, and we're going to keep it that way.
Let's bring in Dennis. You have a question about the why.
Yes. Ambassador Haley, thank you. I'm a little biased because my family's from South Carolina, out of Berkeley County. I went to Claflin University.
Oh.
I student taught with someone who taught you,
yes.
Maryland doctor. But with folks shouting names across New York City like Trump and DeSantis, why should we be going for you?
Well, Dennis, first of all, Claflin University is a fantastic school, and I love that you're from there. I lived in Orangeburg for a while. The first thing is, look, I have executive experience. I was a 2-term governor, but I also have UN foreign policy experience. I was on the negotiating side. I had to negotiate with Russia and China. I had to deal with Iran and North Korea. We're going into a time where foreign policy is going to matter for the next 10 and 20 years, and we need to be ready. So you have to have someone who's tough, who understands them, but also it's time for a new generational leader. We've got to get rid of the past. We've got to get rid of the negativity and start focusing on someone who's going to be tough, make America strong and proud again, but also bring people back together. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you. Michael.
Morning,
Hi, Michael.
I'm a finance major at Fordham University. I have a firm focus on the economy because I just understand how important it is. Right now, President Biden's presented a large issue of inflation. How are you going to tackle it? What's your game plan?
Well, first of all, you're exactly right. Biden has taken us down this socialism creep that we have to stop. But let's be honest. Biden did this to us, but our Republicans did this to us, too. The massive amount of spending, they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill with no accountability, left us with 90 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. We have to cut up the credit cards. They're spending like drunken sailors. So stop the spending, stop the borrowing. Let's eliminate earmarks, and I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. But this is a point of, it is expensive to go to the grocery store. It's expensive to put gas in your car. It's expensive for y'all to pay rent and even afford a home. We need to be energy dominant. We need to make sure that we stop the spending. We need to focus on what really matters, which is paying down the debt. That's going to get the interest payments down. We've had too many lawyers in the White House. I think it's time that we have an accountant in the White House. That's what I'm going to bring to the table.
Peter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question has to do with your polling. You've gained a lot of momentum in recent weeks. You're getting very close to Ron DeSantis. My question has to do with why you think that is, and specifically what parts of your message you think are resonating with voters, and especially young voters.
Well, I think, first of all, I understand young voters. I have 2 kids. One's 22, one's 25, so I talk with them every day. I know the things that they care about. I'm a mom. I'm a military spouse. I'm an accountant. I'm the daughter of legal immigrants. So I have full experiences, so I can relate to a lot of people. But I also think I speak hard truths. I did it as governor. I did it as the UN ambassador, and I think the American people deserve the truth. Let's put it out there. Let's be completely transparent, and then let's fix our problems together. That's the way we go forward, and I think people appreciate the straight talk. I think they appreciate the fact that I trust the American people to make good decisions, and I think they know that I identify with them, and I think that's why we've worked so well, and that's why the poll numbers are showing that.
A smart group of young people. Governor, thanks so much. Ambassador, Governor, and maybe could be the next president. Thank you so much for taking
Thanks so much. I'll go to NikkiHaley.com and spread the word.
All right, team, I'll send it back to Steve, Ainsley, and Brian.
I bet they do. All right. Great job, Lawrence.
Can't wait to see the debate next week. Meanwhile,